I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, September the 18th, brought to you in part by Harvest Bank. Their agri-finance team is looking for cattle customers with decades of experience. They know what these cattle are costing. If you're looking for financing on your cattle operation and you're in Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, or Oklahoma, get a hold of them. All loans are subject to credit approval. For more information, go to harvest.com/agriculture. Plenty of bears in the bullpen. All of a sudden on Wednesday, when the board come out sharply lower, noontime beef was sharply lower again. Everybody started getting very nervous. And as good as things are, and as good as they've been, a lot of your commodity people especially, where we're talking about the board being down so much, and technically it's a bear there, and but your funds are having a mass exodus of the cattle futures right now. But where are they going to go? Inters got cheaper also on Wednesday. Where are these funds going to find a commodity market that is shallow enough that they can totally dominate it and take it wherever they want it to go? Likely, I don't think they're gone forever, guys. I think they'll be back. Your beef is down big. Boxes have been down $10 to $12 this week, but at the levels they're at, that's not a very big percentage move as to how big they are. And like I said, interest went down. The Fed finally cut the interest rates. It was only a quarter of a percent. But they did mention they'll probably have 2 more cuts coming up this year. That's a positive, guys. And of course, your feeder and calf buyers in your sale barns are still aggressive, albeit at lower levels. But these farmer feeders are getting really aggressive. You wait till they get this corn in the bin and it gets late in harvest and they start stacking that corn on the ground. They're going to be looking for cattle to give that corn to and walk that corn to town, guys. Your cattle on feed estimates come out for the cattle on feed report coming up into the week. September 1st estimates are for 99.1% of cattle on feed as the same report of a year ago. And placements down at 91%. And your marketing is at only 87.1. Doesn't look like a great report. But the good thing is it leaves room for that report to be bullish. You're thinking 99.1% cattle on feed. I know we got a lot of cattle on feed in the northern plains, but the southern plains, guys, they've got weeds growing up in those feed yards, and they've got the cattle scattered all around. The pens aren't nearly as full as what would typically be, and I just find it hard to believe there's that many cattle on feed. I know there's been cattle hanging on feed for longer days and they've been there, but it still surprised me to see it that high, guys. But your cattle feeders didn't take that foot shot that the Packers gave them on Wednesday. They've been bailing out on a Monday or a Tuesday for sure, at the latest early Wednesday, but they didn't bail out on that. They were bidding in the Southern Plains at $238. Started out bidding the Northern Plains at $232. Nobody was quite that desperate to take that. They ended up giving a buck back more, and Texas sold some cattle at $239. That's just $1 lower than last week, and didn't see much of any trade in the Northern Plains or in Kansas. And they're thinking Kansas may go to a premium to Texas and the Northern Plains, being sitting right in the middle there where they can take those trucks right down there, and it's a good middle shot there between the northern and the southern plains, guys. But I think a lot of people in Kansas still think they have a shot at getting 240, and the 239 bids were out there, and nobody shook loose that I'd heard of, and they're looking at a monster basis. I mean, you look at this live cattle board and it is so low. If they sell it at $239, that's $8 extra to put in their pocket. But I'm not sure they're quite ready to give up on the market this week. They did have that Emporia livestock sales video on replacements on Wednesday there. Bred heifers sold good. They had 2 loads of fancy bred heifers there, bring $4,000, and the load of AI bred heifers bring $4,300. I don't think that's any lower, guys. Consider Gelbvieh genetics when you're making your decisions this spring. Gelbvieh Balancer Influence cattle offer increased performance, improved feed efficiency, and have excellent carcass merit. Grow with Gelbvieh for more pay weight and more profit. For more information, go to gelbvieh.org. Also want to tell you about a sale that's coming up on Saturday, another replacement sale. It's in Kingsville, Missouri. That's west central Missouri there. They've got a huge special bred cow and pair sale. They've got several breeding bulls on offer there too. It's going to be Saturday, September the 20th at 11 o'clock in the morning. They've got two big, actually several big dispersals, but including the brown dispersal, they got 325 head complete dispersal there. DeLongs have a complete dispersal. That's going to be over 200 head. All in all, they're going to have about 1,350 head of replacements, guys, and they've got 150 head of fancy replacement heifers weighing from 7.5 to 8.5. So check out that sale on Saturday. If you can't be in Kingsville, Missouri, get on to DVAuction.com and check them out. Get a hold of them early so you make sure that you're approved to bid. It'll be a sale, and a really good sale, and the quality, you can't beat it right in that country, guys. Let's talk about your lower board here on Wednesday. October live cattle futures were down 235 at 231.10. December down 247 at 232.67. Your back months on live cattle down 217 to down 277. September feeder cattle down 330 at 355.02. October down 517 at 349.12. Your back months on feeder cattle down 527 to down 562. And that's troubling, but I'm here in Oklahoma City at the Heritage Place racehorse sales. I was walking around in the back and located one rancher there in a cattle feeder, and he hadn't looked at the board. I told him it was down hard. These guys are getting numb to it. This thing is so stout. He says it'll be back. Told him there was a lot of feeder sales that were lower, and he says they still want them. There's not enough of them, and he's right. Where are they going to find it? They're not just going to show up. They're not going to show up for another 3 years. Talk about your December corn new crop there. Futures down 2.5 cents a bushel at 427. November beans down 5 3/4 cents at 1044. December Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 7 cents a bushel at 516.5. Your fat cattle trade didn't have much of anything in the northern plains. They did show 100 head of fed cattle sales in Iowa that were confirmed. That was 235. It could be on the low side of last week's price spread, but they didn't swing the gates, and most everybody else refused those lower bids. Nebraska didn't confirm a sale of a hoof. Kansas neither, and they were getting bid 239 with that monster basis there. Texas did sell 1,250 head at the 239, but nobody give up at 238, guys. A couple of fat cattle auctions. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota had 1,100 head for their slaughter cattle auction. The fat steers and heifers were $3 to $5 lower. Conventional fed cattle sell from 233.5 to 240 with program cattle, and they're desperately wanting program cattle, guys. If you have non-implanted or drug-free cattle, they're worth more. Haggle for a better price. They sold program cattle in Worthing, South Dakota from 240 to 247. Glacial Lakes Livestock, Watertown, South Dakota had 750 head for their slaughter cattle auction. Their fed steers and heifers sold steady to firm. Conventional cattle in Watertown selling from 237 to 242. Program cattle from 240 to 249. And big fat fed cows from 175 to 188. Now I told you your box beef cutouts were sharply lower. Choice cuts down 444 at 388.18. Selects down 680 at 366.37. Slaughter 351,000 through the first 3 days of the week. Estimated cattle slaughtered this week. That was 9,000 more than last week, 21,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talking about what else is going on. Legacy Beef Co-op. Become a member of Legacy Beef Co-op. Those shares are an investment that will increase in value as you hold them. You can reserve your kill slot for the opening of the Cattlemen's Heritage Beef Plant. Guys, get in on that. For more information, go to legacybeefcoop.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood, guys. Your real-time index after your sales on Wednesday is sitting at 358.07, up 46 cents from the close of Tuesday there. So I mean, they were after them in your sales, and a lot of good sales happened on Wednesday. Wednesday's getting to be our largest feeder cattle auction day as opposed to Monday or Tuesday there. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 361.36. I want to tell you about some sales coming up here later this week. Here on Thursday, Maryville, Missouri. That is extreme northwest Missouri, guys. Right up there, almost into Iowa. This is their first time they're going to be broadcast on DVAuction, and they've got a good sale for you here on Thursday. They've got 5 loads of feeders running from 6.5 to 800 pounds there. They've got at least 1 load, maybe 2 loads of those that have condition to be turned back out, yearlings to be turned back out, guys, and the quality will be outstanding. They've got a couple hundred calves. They've got 1 string of 100 head of black calves. That'd be all natural, nothing done to them, and bulls on them, weighing from 4.5 to 500 pounds, and then about 100 or more other calves in that offering at Maryville Livestock Auction, Maryville, Missouri. Also want to tell you about a big sale that's going to be at Enid Livestock Market in Enid, Oklahoma. They've got at least 20 straight pot loads of yearling feeder cattle there at Enid. You can log on to DVAuction.com for your sale in Enid, Oklahoma. Also coming up on Friday, they've got a special out in Fallon, Nevada at Nevada Livestock Marketing. Jack Payne's got several consignments of nice feeders out there. Get on to DVAuction for that sale too. Let's talk about your big sales on Wednesday. I was actually out in El Reno, Oklahoma. Stopped by there as I had a break from the Heritage Place sale. It was noontime and they were already done, less than 3,000 head. But they had big strings in there and they went through pretty fast. The market was sharply lower. But they had a big sale in Bassett, Nebraska. Bassett Livestock Auction had 3,600 head. Compared to 2 weeks ago, the market was very uneven like it's been everywhere. Those 850-pound steers were $10 higher than 2 weeks ago. The 950-pound steers were steady to $6 lower. Bassett was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Livestock Equipment, stick-out sale of the day. And you look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights. 475 head of 8-weight feeders in Bassett, Nebraska, averaged 875 with a weighted average price of $366.04. 691 head of the 9-weight feeder steers in Bassett, averaged 956 pounds at $351.97. You think those farmer feeders from out in Iowa ain't coming over there driving their own pot and getting into some of those feeders? Not on this report, but they had 435 head of 10 to 1050 weight steers. They averaged 1029 with a weighted average price of $336.14. How about the heifers? They had 561 head of 8-weight heifers in Bassett. They averaged 866 at $339.39, and 871 head of the 9-weight feeder heifers in Bassett averaged 944 at $331.56. How about the customer appreciation sale at Decorah Sales Commission in Decorah, Iowa? Another DVAuction broadcaster there. They had 2 loads of 957-pound steers bring 350, 275. That's no lower, people. Let's go way out east. And Eastern Kentucky, Bluegrass Stockyards East, Mount Sterling, Kentucky. They sell 67 steers through the ring, weigh 772, bring 377.10. Put wheels under those guys. How about a market opposite end? I mean, I'm giving it to you all over the country. How about Producers Livestock in Vail, Oregon? They sell 77 light steer calves, weigh 416 at 530. They're not pessimistic on the market, guys. How about Sidney, Montana? Sidney Livestock up there. DVAuction broadcaster sells 107 steers, weigh 870 pounds at 368. Let's go back into the Corn Belt there. Bloomfield, Iowa, Bloomfield Livestock Market sells 64 steers, weigh 814 at 384.50. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, indeed come out of Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. It was 62 steers, weighed 896, just almost 9 at 378.50. Dollar those up, guys. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.